Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're watching us, and welcome to Macstaff Live. You're joined today by myself, Martin Crowson, a hello from me, and as always, the Managing Director of Macstaff, Anthony McCormack. Hi, Ant, how are you?
Good, thanks, Martin. Yeah, hello and warm welcome to everybody listening. Looking forward to cracking on with some topical topics, I think, isn't it?
Very much so today, because we're on today to talk about the changing face of recruitment. And goodness me, there's been a huge change, not only in the way recruiting is conducted, but also in the national economy, more specifically here in the UK, but also with global issues. And I thought it'd be interesting today to come on and discuss some of those issues that seem to be ongoing, seem to be no end in sight to lots of them, and seem to be interesting to get Anthony's views on how that's affecting the recruiting industry and how people are going about recruiting, and also from a candidate's perspective, how people are going about trying to find new jobs under this current situation. So let's crack on, Anthony. We all know that the current situation in the UK at the moment is that there is ongoing job vacancy situation. There are so many people around for so few jobs. A recent report's just come out from KPMG and REC today saying the same thing, in the fact that starting wages are just skyrocketing and continue to skyrocket simply because there's a shortage of candidates around there. So under that background, how do you see things going? How things are for you out of interest at the moment as a recruiter, and how do you see things going in the next few months?
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy situation, like something, I've not experienced in probably 20 years of recruitment, of going from flipping from one thing to the other. So in 2020 with the pandemic, it was like the curtain came down, like 90% of jobs disappeared. There's no work out there for, recruiters and companies are struggling to make ends meet. Then in 2021, it was like a game of two halves. Like we started coming up with a massive upswing as, the first lockdown finished. Companies wanted to crack on with their their hiring plans, and we kind of got used to kind of living with the pandemic. And it's like everything, every economy, every company, all started kicking off at the same time, and that started the beginning of this skills shortage, which is continued into 2022 now. So and I think you've called it a labour shortage. That's definitely true. We use three phrases, I think, in recruitment, like the labour shortage. That might be, amount of operatives for a CNC machine, for example. There's a skills shortage as well, which, yes, that's the person to run the machine, but maybe with certain skills like digital or automation or robotics and things like that. So it's more of a niche skill set. So we've got a skills shortage, but we've got a talent shortage as well. And that's kind of, where companies, need the X factor, in terms of their new hires as well. Somebody maybe who's got the, soft skills or leadership skills or advocacy skills or strategic mindset and things like that to kind of move the company forward, to change the game. But yeah, we've got the whole lot. It's crazy in that it's gone from something like 100 applicants would apply to a job to 10 if you're lucky, as there's an increasing amount of vacancies, but at the same time competing for a diminishing candidate pool. So
you've seen that happen. You've seen that happen, Ant, have you, on the ground floor, as it were? The jobs that you would normally expect to see, 100 plus applicants go down to single figures, like you were just saying. That's
100%. And companies, were expecting to come out of the pandemic, with a labour pool they could just help themselves to. And it's been a bit of a shock that it's not a client driven market, it's a candidate driven market. And any good candidates are discerning. They have multiple choices. They're getting counter offered to stay at their current firm as well. They're taking many things into account in terms to make their best career move for themselves. And it's almost like candidates are interviewing prospect employers, like not the other way around, where the employers are interviewing the candidates.
Yeah, without going into too much into politics, there's been mentioned a million times that Brexit has had an effect on this, specifically the labour shortage side of things. Do you think that's is that true, or too much made of that for political reasons?
So yes and yes, I guess, kind of in both camps. But there's a million people missing from the job market. The stats are saying, and Brexit accounts for maybe 300,000 or 400,000 of that, or at least shortage of EU workers that perhaps working here before accounts for some of that shortfall. I'd argue it's not kind of Brexit per se, though, although that provides that kind of news soundbite. Any EU worker that was already in the UK had an easy kind of tick box pre-settlement exercise to do, and could certainly continue. I think there's been other factors at play, like the exchange rates, it becoming less attractive to be paid in sterling and to be sending money kind of back home. That's been a factor. And then the logistics of toing and froing, like within a pandemic, a lot of people for personal and family reasons more than political reasons went back to other EU countries, and then it's either been too difficult to come back, or they've settled into a new normal in their resident countries. So there's been a few things at play. I guess the other things, the more concerning things for the job market and the talent pool, is that people have stayed in education as well. That's been a major factor in people not entering the job market. They've decided, or that there's not good options out there, or they don't want to be looking in such an uncertain market. So people have stayed on for master's degrees or other qualifications. And the last or another kind of major people group is the over 50s. There's a lot of economically inactive people that are just basically standing on the sidelines of the employment market. If they don't absolutely kind of have to, they're not working right now. They don't perhaps need the money. Maybe they've cashed out on, the property market in London, and, people have reflected, haven't they, on their work-life balance and things like that. So, some people are waiting it out, or they're in the luxury position where they don't have to be in the scrum of the labour market. I suppose lastly as well, there's literally some people that have unfortunately kind of died during the pandemic. They're missing, and there's other people that have got health concerns with kind of rejoining certain kinds of workplaces and things like that. So it's a mixed bag, a complicated situation, I think.
Aside from that ever-changing situation, and when you said that's unprecedented in 2 decades of your work, it doesn't seem to be having a huge downside on the growth of the economy in the UK at the moment. Why is that, and do you expect that to continue? I know there's arguments about the speed of our growth compared to European neighbours, etc., but things seem strong. The pound's growing in strength, the FTSE's at good levels. Is it like to continue that way in these conditions?
So probably not. Like, it can't go on for forever. Like, the market's hot, the economy's growing like a little bit kind of too fast, if anything. It feels like it's fizzing. Recruiters are making hay while the sun shines. Bad news sells in a way, doesn't it, from a news point of view, I guess. So it is bad news to a certain extent that we have a skills shortage, that companies can't hire, that there is wage inflation and things like that. But it because it's hampering our future productivity, that move to the high skill, high wage economy that, like, politicians will talk about. But it's way less bad in terms of news than if there was a mass unemployment and low levels of economic activity, and companies weren't expanding, because then that unemployment leads to lack of and low demand leads to lack of spending, which is that kind of downward kind of spiral economically into potential deflation, and that's where governments have to step in with their their stimulation or stimulus packages and things like that. So what we're experiencing now is way less bad, and it might even be called good news that we're in a buoyant growing economy, and there is demand for skills, and it will make us an attractive place for companies to invest and high skilled workers to relocate to as well. So on balance, that's pretty good. We're going at full speed though. I'm thinking, like, if we were the Starship Enterprise right now. It's like we're warp factor 9, like we're going like absolutely full bounce. Like Scotty's going, she can't take it anymore. Jim, she's gonna blow, and like nuts are popping off and things like that. And I suppose, joking aside, we're facing like an inflation, a very inflationary situation, aren't we? There's the energy crisis, cost of living crisis, and that's going to hurt the individuals, like being me and you, as our salary or our money won't go as far, and it's putting the squeeze on companies as well. They're quite often on fine margins, as their energy costs, as their wage costs rise, they're going to become less profitable, and maybe there's going to be an increasing number of insolvencies as we go towards the back end of this year. It's not a sustainable situation. I'm in Bristol myself, as you know, do a lot in construction, and there's been a bit of a shock with a fairly major contractor going under, Midas. That's a 300 million pound turnover company, employing hundreds of staff, and they've called in the administrators, and there's a lot of companies and industries that are kind of working on those kind of fine margins, and the government might have to step in and do something. I don't know if you noticed that the governor of the Bank of England was saying, like, don't everybody ask for pay rises all at once just because we're coming to a cost of living crisis. And you can't blame people. Of course they will, but he can see that you start to add fuel to the fire of inflation by having wages increase massively. It's going to compound the problem, and we're going to be in a worse situation. So the clouds are on the horizon, they say. So keep going, but don't overstretch yourself in terms of overheads or hiring, and be left in a position where you can't sustain your cost base, I guess.
And what did Midas say with the reasons for them calling the administrators in? What are they specifically cites?
Yeah, so supply chain issues with Brexit and pandemic, and escalating costs, for labour and materials, and delays and stop starts with clients and projects that have been disruptive, and left them carrying the can, basically. So again, a mixed picture in terms of the reasons, and time will tell if once the auditors get involved and things like that, because we're still unpicking what actually the situation was with Carillion, which was the big one a few years ago. And there's been criticism of both the auditors and the administrators, and the people who were in financial charge of the company at the time, were they asleep at the wheel, sort of thing. But let's stick with it's less bad news than a stagnant economy, though. So there's opportunities out there for people.
Sure. And with all that going on, and yourself dealing with both clients and candidates, why is it more important than ever now for both of those parties to engage with a recruiter like yourself?
So the recruiters have gone from like dime a dozen like last year to gold dust this year, really, and that's just the difference a year makes, isn't it? Lots of recruiters were made redundant last year, and now companies can't hire recruiters either in-house or on the agency side fast enough. I suppose for a start, it's just an extra pair of hands, because companies can't handle their own kind of resourcing requirements in-house at the moment, but also it's kind of buying in expertise that the internal recruiters, who are typically generalists, might not have, and it's tapping into the agency recruiters candidate pool as well. Like it's our job to know where the talent's hanging out, and to be able to engage with people that might be open to a move, or they're passive candidates that would consider the right opportunity but are not actively applying to job postings and things like that. And then it's a challenge, and it's tough for companies to differentiate themselves in their offering. We're calling it employer value proposition. They're trying to sell themselves as an employer, and we can certainly help with that to get the ear of discerning candidates, and to explain to them and really help shortlist which opportunities and companies and opportunities they might want to look at when there's so much to go at. Then from a candidate point of view, sure, we can give them recruitment guidance, impartial advice on, which companies are, good and why, and work out, in collaboration with them as to, what a win-win situation is going to look like. And to orchestrate the process really as well, because candidates are not going to struggle to get a job or get job offers at the moment, but they might want to work cleverly to ensure that they've got some, a few good balls up in the air at the same time, so that they can get maybe offered, more than one thing in the same time frame, so that they can, make good choices, and go with the right company and offer.
You work across lots of different sectors. Which is your busiest sector at the moment? Where are you finding yourself busiest?
Yeah, so construction, property engineering, and manufacturing are my big four, and it's a bit of a mixed bag really, because everywhere's busy. Like if you look at the data, all sectors, all locations, all levels, everything's busy. I suppose I'm particularly busy in a certain sector of construction, really, and that's largely because of one major client, but a contracting company that do steel frame construction and interior installations for large warehouses. So that sector, because of Brexit and increasing requirement for UK stockpiles, the move to e-commerce from traditional retail, and one other thing, but many factors have kind of added to the increase in demand for the kind of warehouse and distribution sector, and a client that's building these things has been massively busy. But I've done a lot in consulting engineering, including like ecologists and geotechnical engineers and sustainability consultants and things like that. I've done a lot in manufacturing, everything from the CNC operator that I kind of talked about earlier on to, production and quality engineers, project engineers. That the green economy, that's definitely kind of filtering through to the job market as well. So, sustainability, ESG consultants, low carbon consultants, everything like that is definitely on the agenda. And the difficulty is then, of course, that it's not a traditional or long-standing area from which you can draw candidates. It's one of those almost like the companies are looking for 5 years experience in something that's only kind of been talked about for 2 years. So the recruiter's challenge.
So it's the big question, and it's something we never get a straight answer from any politicians. But if you could look into your crystal ball and tell me when this is all going to end, I'd be very grateful.
So yeah, it's whether we can safely kind of slow down that runaway train, isn't it, a little bit, and make it sustainable, or whether there's going to be some kind of like a catastrophic engine failure. I think the economy is definitely going to soften towards the back end of this year. Maybe that will make things a little bit less crazy in the labour market as people stay put a little bit more. They're kind of less certain about moving, or that companies have less aggressive hiring plans. So, that might help in a way, but, hopefully it doesn't kind of, dive down too much and start to, affect, things in terms of too much unemployment. So I think this year will be a transition, but it'll be less dramatic than the nothing in 2020 to everything in 2021. I think, that we should be on a little bit of a surer footing as we go through this year. What is a separate thing coming into play there as well? I don't know whether you'd heard the phrase "Great Resignation." So people are talking about where's all the the employees gone, and also why is everybody kind of choosing to leave their companies all at one time? And I guess it's a few things, but there's a lot of people that were kind of promising themselves a move a couple of years ago, and then decided not to, in favor of job security and to hang on to jobs that they had, or even to be hoping to return from furlough to employment rather than furlough to redundancy. But as things picked up, there's become more choices out there, and a lot of people have been either tempted to make a move that they weren't necessarily considering because there's good stuff out there, or they're finally kind of allowing themselves to make the move that they've been wanting to for a long time, especially as some companies have picked up bad press, or just left a kind of a bad taste in employees' mouths as to how they've handled the communication, or the ethics, throughout the pandemic. People will remember for a long time how the companies and their employers kind of behaved in that time of crisis. And, people have, reflected, haven't they? And they want increasingly to be in a place where they belong, where there's a sense of purpose, where the values are aligned.
Yes.
So people won't stay with a inverted commas bad employer anymore, or one that's not a fit. They're just voting with their feet, and there's a lot of that in the market. And that creates, when somebody leaves and fills a position, they create a vacancy, which is filled by someone that creates a vacancy, which is filled by someone who creates a vacancy, and then that cycle can actually go on for a long time. So, whilst it won't help the overall economy, I concede, like robbing Peter to pay Paul, that will probably keep the recruitment market kind of busy and buoyant like all year.
Okay. It's whilst I've got you on another topical subject, which I'd be interested to get your thoughts on, is the talk of a 4-day week that's emerged over the last few months. And the 4-day week global is a movement where people are trying this in different countries, and I understand there's been they've been trialed in places like Iceland and Japan. Can you see that being a thing over here? Would it work? Would you have any reservations, or would you be fully behind something like that?
Yeah, I suppose my gut reaction was like it won't work, or it won't work as the default, or certainly for everybody. It's like working from home, isn't it? It's like the ones that can and the ones that can't, creating this 2-tier system, kind of roughly, split between white collar and blue collar workers. So, I see problems with it, and I don't think it's going to work in 24/7 demanding environments, customer service or manufacturing and things like that, because it's just too complicated to have gaps in your offering, basically. But it will work in certain environments and professional office based positions, and it's some of those usual suspects really that are jumping on board with this new talent acquisition and retention tool, basically, isn't it, to allow people a potential better work-life balance. So I think it's I've seen telecoms companies, I've seen marketing companies, those ones that would have been the first to have the basketball court in the break room,
Sounds good.
The stand-up desks and everything like that, companies with money that can go the extra mile to attract people. So they're the early adopters of this, but it's not universally attractive though, because I've had I was talking to a recruitment business owner, kind of friend of mine, and philosophically they wanted to do it as well, and they were engaging with the employees as to how it might work, and with the need, and there's no such thing as a free lunch, as they say, with the need to compress then a full-time working week into 4 days, it meant that they would have to do like 11 hours, like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, in order to get everything done adequately, in order to have that 3 days off.
And I guess that's counterproductive if we're looking at introducing something that's going to help people's mental health in the long term. That's why one of the reasons why it might be brought in. They don't have to cram so much work into 4 days that they go home completely burnt out on 4 of those 5 days. It's not working.
Yeah, so it's okay as well for people who've limited commitments that might want to do something specific or travel or whatever in the 3 days off. But for anybody with childcare arrangements or costs, like that, those long days are going to be a problem, aren't they? Or your dog, your horse, needs more attention than that or whatever. So they had to put it on ice as something that was too hard, basically. And you envisage the 4-day week. It's people don't want a 4-day week that kind of rolls like it's any 4 from 7, do they? They want 4 days off, like on a Monday to Friday basis, and furthermore, they want it to be that extra day off to be a Friday or a Monday, and that's not necessarily the best for employers. Like I said in that example, Wednesday was by far the best day to have everybody off because it's the quietest one. So even if you kind of want to do something on paper, it might practically kind of not be the best. But having pronounced the no such thing as a free lunch, with this trial that you're talking about, they are trying to do it on that basis, and the companies that are signing up are agreeing to keep paying employees their full salary, their full-time salary, but for 32 hours. So, they're trying to get an adequate amount, or 5 days worth of productivity from their people in 4 days. And I'm thinking this is not going to work, but I'm also thinking, like, I hope it does. Like, fingers crossed. I'm cheering that on, because maybe that is the way forward, and that extra freedom and flexibility and that kind of time to recuperate might mean that people come in, like, smash it, be more productive, and it's a win-win. Like, we'll see.
It'll be very interesting to see the practicalities of that actually in situ, with with your boss walking behind you up and down all the time, making sure you don't even blink up from your screen because he wants maximum productivity, no calls, no nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've made this massive gesture to you, we own you for those 4 days. We'll see. I mean, it's worked in Iceland, because those Nordic countries are kind of really renowned for that sort of thing. They were first on the universal income and things like that, weren't they? So it's obviously worked there. It's worked in Japan as well, like with big companies as well. Like, I think it was Microsoft. But Japanese culture is a little bit different. I think the workforce is very compliant, and they potentially go along with any work arrangement. It might be a little bit kind of different when you start telling people what to do in the UK, I think, and it would be problematic for a large pre-existing company to rework all their kind of work arrangements and rotas and customer contacts, to facilitate that. We'll see. Be an interesting experiment for sure.
I'll watch this space, and we'll come back in 6 months and see how it's gone. How important is it? I mean, you're a recruitment agency that is big on being part of wider schemes and being in memberships of various groups, and you've just taken on a new role yourself personally within Team. Tell us a little bit about that and what that entails.
Yeah, so I've been a member of Team for a number of years, since the inception of Macstaff. Really, it's been invaluable. They're a independent network of independent recruitment business owners. So they get together and help us out with training, with networking, with legal advice and documentation, and a whole host of different things. And
there's plenty of members in that now, isn't there, as well, Anthony?
Yeah, it's like 500 plus members in the UK, and we're a valuable resource for each other. Basically, it's one of those, isn't it? So if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with with a team. And Team's definitely my tribe. And I've kind of gelled there, and was fortunate to win, if I got the right side. Previous Team Member of the Year and things like that. The first time it went to an independent owner operator like myself, because some of the firms are larger, and it became apparent during the kind of recession and pandemic, particularly, that the solo entrepreneurs like myself kind of needed that extra kind of support and peer-to-peer kind of networking time. And it was a newly created role for the solo recruiters sector director. Easy for me to say.
Well done.
And I was honored to be offered that role, which is a volunteer position essentially, but I'll kind of facilitate and run the in-person and the online meetings and things like that, where we get together and shoot the breeze, but also discuss topical issues and things like that, and share best practice, and maybe have a trainer or a speaker kind of join us for the events and things like that. So
I guess it's really good to catch up with these people to be able to be fully informed when we come on for chats like this about what is actually going on, on the ground floor, as it were. Yeah,
absolutely. So we're commonly experiencing the same things, and it's a very collaborative network. That's what it's there for, I guess. Your lone wolf, so to speak, kind of are repelled by the whole idea of talking honestly about your clients and your challenges and your successes with other recruiters. But that's how it goes at Team, and we like it, and I definitely recommend if independent recruitment businesses are looking for that kind of supportive environment, then do tap me up and ask about it.
Sure. Okay. Well, we're close to running out of time, and
Mm,
today we've gone on for nearly half an hour now,
wow.
so it's time to wrap up. But just briefly before we go, if you're a candidate looking for tips on how to change jobs or get into the job market, Anthony's written a book called Job Search, Job Done. Before we go, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I'm representing people in a job search, it's more of a one-to-one situation, isn't it? And I will help steer people through the process, but I can't speak to everybody one-to-one, can I? So that was the motivation of putting this one-stop shop kind of success manual into place for people's job search process. And yeah, I'd recommend you pick that up. It's available on Amazon. It's I think $7.95, something like that, as the paperwork copy, and massive upside of getting the right job at the right salary in the right way. Yeah, I think it's I'm biased obviously, but I think it's good stuff, and it'll definitely help you get the right result.
And we've also discussed lots of the chapters involved in that, and lots of the discussion points on how to get the best job over the last 12 months on YouTube. So I would implore everybody to visit the Macstaff YouTube channel and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and you'll be the first to be informed of when we're doing further videos like this that can help you within the job market. That just leaves me enough time briefly to say thanks very much for joining us today. Thank you for watching. As I say, you can find out lots more content which can help you in the job market on our YouTube channel. You can also visit the Macstaff website, which is www.macstaff.co.uk. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and you can also follow Anthony and Macstaff on LinkedIn. So please check out all those if you get 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Anthony, for joining us today. Appreciate your time as ever. It's been really good.
My pleasure. Like, what a whirlwind. And we'll look forward to speaking to you again about topical stuff soon.
Yeah, and we'll be back soon with our next topic here on YouTube. So for me, Martin Crowson, thanks once again for joining us, and have a good day. Bye-bye.